former U.S. President Donald Trump indicted over a hush money payment allegation, becoming the first U.S. president to face criminal charges. All this as he mounts his third bid for the White House. A triple increase in the South Korean economy, with the country posting an uptick in production, consumption, and investment for the first time in more than a year. And South Korea's hopes for the 2030 World EXPO bid in Busan light up in central Seoul. Good afternoon. We start with the historic indictment of former U.S. President Donald Trump over hush money payment allegations. As yet, there are no details of the criminal charges, but the case in and of itself makes him the first sitting or former U.S. president to be indicted. All of this comes as Trump is seeking a third run for the White House. Lee Eun-jin starts us off.
Former U.S. President Donald Trump was indicted by a 23-member Manhattan grand jury on Thursday over allegations of hush money payments made in 2016. This comes amidst another run for the White House and claims by Trump that he is completely innocent. The Manhattan investigation is just one of several legal challenges that Trump is facing, and one that Trump has called the greatest witch hunt in history. No former or sitting U.S. president has ever faced criminal charges. The specific charges are not known yet, and the indictment will likely be unsealed by a judge in the coming days. But the 5-year probe was in connection to a $130,000 US hush money payment made in the final days of the 2016 campaign to porn star Stormy Daniels for her silence on claims that she made of a sexual encounter with Trump, which was logged as legal expenses. The alleged encounter took place in 2006, a year after Trump married his current wife, Melania. The former president's personal lawyer, Michael Cohen, has said he coordinated with Trump on the payments to Daniels and a second payment of $150,000 US to a second woman known to be a former Playboy model. Trump has denied having affairs with either woman. Cohen himself has pleaded guilty in 2018 to a campaign finance violation and served more than a year in prison. A spokesman for the Manhattan District Attorney's Office said prosecutors had reached out to Trump's defense team to coordinate a surrender on Friday. A person familiar with the matter said Trump is expected to turn himself in on Tuesday. For security reasons, his booking is expected to be carefully choreographed to avoid crowds inside or outside the courthouse. Lee Eun-jin, Arirang News.
As Russia appears to be running low on ammunition from the war in Ukraine, the U.S. speculates that Russia may send delegation to North Korea, seeking to offer food to Pyongyang in exchange for weapons. Bae Eun-ji has more.
The White House has revealed that Russia is seeking to acquire more munitions from North Korea to bolster its war against Ukraine. In a press briefing on Thursday U.S. local time, the National Security Council spokesperson John Kirby said Vladimir Putin would likely send food to the regime in exchange for munitions. Noting that they have new information that Russia is actively seeking to acquire additional munitions from North Korea, he said Moscow is also seeking to send a delegation to Pyongyang. He added that any arms deal between North Korea and Russia would violate a series of UN Security Council resolutions. On North Korea's recent statements that they will not provide or sell arms to Russia, Kirby said the U.S. is continuing to monitor the situation closely. His comments came soon after the U.S. on Thursday imposed sanctions on a Slovakian man for trying to arrange the sale of more than 24 types of North Korean weapons and munitions to Russia. U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen has said schemes like this show that Vladimir Putin is now turning to suppliers like North Korea and Iran as a last resort. In December, Washington had previously accused Pyongyang of providing weapons to the Wagner Group, a pro-Russian mercenary outfit. Pyongyang denied the claims. Bae Eun-ji, Arirang News.
In the meantime, Russian authorities have detained an American reporter for the Wall Street Journal, accusing him of spying. The White House slammed Moscow for the move, calling the targeting of American citizens by the Russian government unacceptable, Lee Seung-jae reports.
In a move that would certainly further deteriorate relations between the United States and Russia, Russian authorities on Thursday announced that it had detained Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich. Russia's main security service, the FSB, said that the American journalist who had been based in Moscow has been trying to obtain state secrets. A Russian district court in Moscow said that he would be detained until May 29th. The arrest of Gershkovich marks the first time an American journalist has been detained by Russia over allegations of spying since the Cold War. However, the arrest also comes a week after U.S. authorities arrested a Russian national in the United States for allegedly spying. Despite speculation, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov did not say if Gershkovich's arrest was a retaliatory measure. In response to the arrest, the White House slammed Moscow, calling it unacceptable.
The State Department has also been in touch with the Wall Street Journal and his family on this matter. This espionage charges are ridiculous. The targeting of American citizens by Russian government is unacceptable. We condemn the detention of Mr. Gershkovich in the strongest terms. We also condemn the Russian government's continued targeting and repression of journalists.
The White House spokesperson also warned Americans against traveling to Russia, while also calling on any U.S. citizens living or currently visiting Russia to leave immediately. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
After months of delays, Turkey has taken a historical step and finally approved Finland's application to join NATO, clearing the final hurdle in the accession process. Now, Finland could become a formal member of NATO within days. The Turkish parliament voted unanimously in favor of Finland's membership on Thursday local time, after Hungary did the same on Monday. But both countries are continuing to block Sweden's membership of the 74-year-old military alliance. Finland and Sweden asked to join NATO last year following Russia's invasion of Ukraine, but the process had been held up by Turkey and Hungary. The U.S. remains committed to pursuing denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula, ruling out the option of deploying nuclear weapons in the South. That's according to Pentagon spokesperson Pat Ryder on Thursday, who was asked about whether the U.S. has any plans to do so. Without directly answering the question, Ryder said the Pentagon will closely consult with Congress on the matter and will continue discussions with South Korea on extended deterrence. When asked whether Washington plans to deploy any additional units of anti-missile defense system THAAD in South Korea, Ryder said there is nothing to announce on that matter. Now on to a triple increase in the South Korean economy. The country posted an uptick in production, consumption, and investment for the first time in more than a year. Our Moon Arirang has the details.
Data released by Statistics Korea on Friday shows that the index for the country's overall industrial output in February stood at 109.4, up 0.3% on month. It's the second month in a row that industrial output has increased compared to the previous month. This was attributed to the rise in services, which rose by 0.7% overall, with the dining and accommodation sector, as well as the sports and leisure activities sector, showing the biggest growth since January.
Due to favorable weather and the slowing of the COVID-19 pandemic, all industrial production increased 0.3% a month due to growth in industries such as accommodation, food, art, sports and leisure.
However, output from the mineral and manufacturing industries fell by 3.2% on month due to a decline in semiconductor production, which slumped by more than 17% on month and over 41% compared to the same month last year. This is the greatest decline on month since December 2008. But the index for retail sales, a key gauge of consumer demand, saw a rise of 5.3% compared to the previous month, standing at 108.4 in February. The significant rise came following a consecutive 3-month decline that began in November last year. Sales across all three sectors measured by the agency, divided into durables, non-durables, and semi-durable goods, saw a rise. In particular, department store and auto shop sales showed increases compared to January. Facility investment also rose by 0.2% on month, due to continued investment in manufacturing facilities by companies amid growing expectations that semiconductor prices will improve in the second half of the year. 문혜련, Arirang News.
The ruling People Power Party, the government and the presidential office on Friday morning, held a breakfast meeting to discuss nation's working hours reform. The meeting comes after the government's contentious proposal to increase legally allowed working hours to 69 hours per week from the current 52. The PPP said there will be a survey conducted on 6,000 citizens to get feedback, and they will work toward flexible weekly working hours. The PPP and the government followed the meeting with a discussion on energy prices, where it was said that an increase in electricity and gas prices is inevitable due to accumulated deficits for KEPCO and the Korea Gas Corporation. They said more discussions are needed, however, in terms of when price hikes will be introduced and by how much. Now, there are only a few days left until officials representing the World EXPO organizers visit South Korea for an on-site inspection, and the country is hopeful its coastal city of Busan will win the bid to host a mega event. Song Yujin reports.
Blue roses, the symbol of hope and aspiration, light up Gwanghwamun Square in central Seoul. They're hoping that Busan, South Korea's second-largest city, becomes the venue for the 2030 World Expo, one of the three major international events along with the Olympics and the World Cup. In light of this, Gwanghwamun Square has gone through a complete makeover.
As the Bureau International d'Exposition, the organizer of the Expo, is visiting South Korea for a project examination, we planned this event to show people both at home and abroad Korea's dedication to the 2030 World Expo.
Here, you can take a look at the past and future of the World Expo. Yukjo-madang, the start of the square, tells the Expo's more than century-long history. Groundbreaking inventions like the telephone and the airplane were all introduced for the first time at past editions of the Expo. Next up, the three themes of the 2030 Busan World Expo. First, technology for humanity, like Korean motor giant Kia's new electric model, the EV9, is being showcased. Second, sustainable living with nature. You can enjoy some of SK Innovation's efforts to go green, like its fast-charging EV batteries. And a booth set up by Busan City where people can generate renewable energy by riding this bike inside. Finally, a platform for caring and sharing. Characters representing Lotte Group, Pelligom, Rotti, and Rori were there to greet visitors. There's also a wish tree filled with messages in support of Busan winning the bid. The 5-day exhibition gives some indication of Korea's ability to host the 2030 World Expo.
We were surprised because the place was packed with so many people. Just looking at this big crowd makes me confident that the 2030 World Expo is Busan's.
I'm very proud to be here seeing all these brands, and all these events are very exciting, all the photo booths, all the gifts that you're getting, and I hope Busan becomes the place for the Expo.
Now, hopes are high and the excitement towards Busan's bid to host the 2030 World Expo is stronger than ever. Starting from here at Gwanghwamun Square, South Korea is showing that it's ready for the BIE's upcoming on-site inspection. Song Yujin, Arirang News.
In addition, with distinguishing features of the masterpiece 19th century Korean map Daedongyeojido returned home from Japan, our Chae Soo-young went to this significant unveiling moment.
Daedongyeojido is regarded as the greatest map of Joseon dynasty. It means territorial map of the Great East and was made using wooden blocks in 1861 by mapping specialist and geologist Kim Jung-ho. He created it based on the map named Donggyeodo that included all the roads, rivers, mountains, and even military bases, and over 18,000 names, as well as the history of the regions from the Joseon period. There are 35 previous editions of Daedongyeojido, but a lot of information was omitted from them because it was hard to engrave on wood blocks one by one. Daedongyeojido consists of 23 separate and foldable booklets, including one volume with a table of contents. It divided the Korean Peninsula into 22 sections from north to south and is 8 meters wide and 5 meters long. When all 22 booklets are unfolded and laid together, it becomes an enormous-sized map of Korea. The Cultural Heritage Administration unveiled the 36th edition on Thursday morning to the press for the first time after its restitution from Japan. Its existence had passed into legend, but was confirmed for the first time in July 2022 when the former owner decided to sell. Experts assumed it was picked up during the Japanese colonial period by an obsessed European collector. Meanwhile, officials said this new edition is important because it was printed on paper first and added to using handwriting with almost all of the specific details. In the second volume, Baekdusan national boundary monuments mark the boundary between the Joseon and Qing dynasties. Moreover, in the 14th volume, a departure point can be seen for ships heading to Ulleungdo Island and the neighboring region. Shipping routes between Jeju Island and Jeollanam-do province are also outlined in the last volume. This new version of Daedongyeojido is very valuable as a means of showing what the Joseon dynasty's territory looked like before Japanese occupation. And it shows how the people of Joseon used Daedongyeojido.
You can see the meaning of the maps in Joseon society and how intelligently the maps were used through this new edition.
According to the officials, this new edition of Daedongyeojido will enhance interest in both the scientific cultural heritage of Joseon dynasty and inspire pride in Korean history. Choi Soo-hyung, Arirang News.
The means of transportation are becoming more advanced and eco-friendly. Attendees at this year's Seoul Mobility Show are able to get a closer look into the world of mobility. Our Lee Soo-jin takes us there.
Innovative electric SUVs, robots, and purpose-built vehicles. This year's Seoul Mobility Show is being held under the theme of sustainable, connected, and mobility. The 10-day event, which first began in 1995, changed its name from the Seoul Motor Show to the Seoul Mobility Show in 2021 to reflect the addition of new transportation modes, including urban air mobility and autonomous cars. Over 160 companies and organizations from 10 different countries are partaking in South Korea's largest motor show this year. One of the show's most anticipated reveals is none other than Kia's large electric SUV, the EV9, showcased to the public for the first time.
The EV9 strives to offer a user experience that goes beyond the means of transportation to create a life mobility space where families can bond and spend time together.
The EV9 SUV reflects Kia's intention to be more electric. The 3-row SUV also has second-row seats that can swivel 180 degrees to face the rear. Another company that garnered attention even before the event is KG Mobility, previously known as Ssangyong Motors. This is KG Mobility's grand return after 4 years. The Taurus EVX is a mid-size electric SUV with distinctive features such as LED daytime running lights that enhances the visibility of the vehicle.
As for the horizontal daytime running lights, you can see the wideness from the front, as well as it also stands out because of its dotted form.
Also on display for the first time domestically are Hyundai Mobis's PBV M-Vision 2 and M-Vision High, which embodies the company's future strategy centered around urban mobility. Attendees can experience crab driving, where wheels can be rotated by 90 degrees, as well as 360-degree static turns.
The M-Vision 2 was created as an urban mobility vehicle. The 90 and 360-degree rotations make it possible for people to parallel park and change directions easily in a limited space. You can think of it as a function that was specifically designed for the city.
A prototype of Tesla's humanoid robot Optimus is also on display for the first time in Korea.
These close looks into the present and future of mobility leaves no doubt that there is something for every car and tech enthusiast in the nation at the show. Lee Soo-jin, Arirang News.
Let's take a look at what's going on in the world now. In the Philippines, search and rescue efforts are ongoing following a deadly ferry fire. According to the latest reports, at least 31 people have been killed and 7 are missing after an inter-island ferry traveling from Zamboanga province to Jolo, Sulu province caught fire on Wednesday night local time. The fire started while most passengers were asleep. Over 220 of the total 250 passengers were rescued, with dozens jumping into the sea in a bid to escape the flames. Passengers were helped by the Coast Guard and local residents of the nearby Baluk Island. The cause of the fire is still being determined, but eyewitnesses report hearing explosions both before and after the blaze started. The Philippines has a record of maritime disasters due to aging vessels and overcrowding on ships. Turning over to the U.S. state of Kentucky now, where at least 9 U.S. service members have died following the crash of 2 U.S. Army Black Hawk helicopters. The crash occurred near Fort Campbell in the state's southwest during a routine training exercise that involved 4 helicopters on Wednesday evening local time. Now, reports say the 2 aircraft crashed into an open field and that there were no survivors. The helicopters were medical evacuation aircraft, part of the 101st Airborne Division. The cause of the crashes is still under investigation, and it's not known whether they collided with each other. The crash marks one of the deadliest training disasters for the U.S. military in recent times. Meanwhile, Major League Baseball's regular season kicked off on Thursday with new rules introduced which are meant to speed up games and introduce more action. And included in the changes is a first for the league, as games will now feature a pitch clock. Pitchers will now only be allowed 15 seconds to throw a pitch when bases are empty and 20 seconds if a base has a runner. And staying with bases, these have been enlarged from 38.1 centimeters to 45.7 centimeters. This is to accommodate the growing size of players over the years and to encourage more base steals, as well as to reduce injuries. And finally, researchers have found that plants can make noise. According to a study published in the science journal Cell on Thursday, plants make clicking and popping sounds that are not audible to the human ear. But using a special ultrasonic microphone, researchers have been able to capture what these noises sound like across a variety of plant types. Let's take a listen. Now, the finding shakes up previously held notions that the plant kingdom was mostly silent. Researchers also found that stressed plants make about 30 to 50 sounds per hour, while unstressed plants emit about 1 sound per hour. Matthew Ashley, Arirang News.
Good afternoon. It feels more like the middle to end of May on this last day of March, with cherry blossoms already reaching near full bloom in the capital region. But of course, it's that very unwelcome fine dust that's causing headaches to those of us in the west of central regions and Gyeongsang-do provinces. And unfortunately, it does not look any better this weekend either. Wash hands frequently and drink plenty of water. And another reason to stay hydrated is due to the dry air. The dry weather advisory is expanding to more parts of the country, so when you are going hiking, fire safety is a must. Afternoon highs are 1 to 3 degrees higher than yesterday under sunny skies nationwide. And it's going to be even hotter this weekend with an expected peak above 25 degrees in the capital. And it also looks to be a very crowded weekend on the roads with that blossoms attracting crowds. That much hoped for rain is in the forecast for the first week of April. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
Thank you so much for watching. Have a great weekend.